Okay, hi everyone. This is Rocky Trifari from the Rocky Safari, and I just uploaded my interview from the TV show Michigan Entrepreneur, where I was interviewed by Tara, the host of the show. And I just wanted to create this video because I put together that blog post where I talked a little bit about what my thoughts and stance was like prior to recording the interview. And now that interview is getting posted, and I just thought that it would be kind of cool if I could put together a little bit of like a post-interview reflection and just talk a little bit about what it was like, what my thoughts are, things that I learned, and what I could apply next time if there's a next time, or for some other shows and any other opportunities, I guess, in the future. Just kind of like more than anything, it's just to talk about what I learned from it. Um, yeah, I'll just jump right in. I had absolutely no idea until I watched it that I used so much filler language. Like it's really difficult when you're used to conversationally just putting in those little words when you're talking, saying things that the same thing you would learn in like a public speaking class where they say try to skip over those words like so you know any and even like those little things that you put in when you're talking, and then when you're giving like a presentation and people are listening, I feel like it kind of derails from what your message is. So I need to just try to say what I have on my mind, not really think about it as much as I tend to do. Maybe even like speak a little bit faster and try to put in like a little bit more. I think that I could have definitely sold like what my purpose was, what my goals are, and next time around like I know, okay, I need a really good elevator pitch, start off strong, wrap people in, tell them what you do, what's your purpose, why are you here. I mean, the whole point of the interview was to like talk about that, and I sort of just like was afraid to bring it up. I don't know why. Um but yeah, so it is what it is. It's kind of like travel in that sense where, the first time you're a little bit afraid, but then you do it and you're like, oh, okay, next time around, oh, I've seen this before, I've done this, it's not as scary. You know what to expect even. So you can do it so much more easily and more effectively. So that was like the first thing. I kind of just wish that I wouldn't have used so many of those words. Maybe for other people, it wasn't super noticeable, but I definitely noticed it. And we're always like our own worst critics, and so I picked up on it, and it's like, oh, I need to do less of that. And like anything, it's a habit. Habits can be changed, they can be broken. It's not necessarily something easy to do, but at least now that I've watched it, I know that I do it. And if, in the future, I could just try to, start my sentences by saying what it is you want to say. Don't necessarily start the sentence with the same word. Like there were just certain habits that I picked up on, and I was like, oh, why did I do that? I wish I could just like change it or redo it, or you know it's hard to avoid, but it definitely was something I picked up on, and I'd imagine maybe other people did. I don't know. Next time I will hopefully be able to avoid that altogether and just sort of like say what it is I want to say. And for people who aren't familiar with this type of a format, which shows like we had a start time and an end time. It was a 30-minute interview. There's somebody scheduled before you, somebody scheduled after you, and then you have your time. There's no cuts, no retakes, no do-overs. It is what it is. So however things happen, that's how it happens. Maybe in other interviews, people even like know the questions in advance. In my case, I didn't know them. I was being asked them and hearing them for the first time while it was being filmed. So it's like anything, you're a little bit nervous, you're caught off guard by certain questions. So I was just trying to think about what can I tell people that has like the most impact. I really want to bring value and more importantly, like, entertainment to the people watching it, and hopefully inspire others and be able to, give people those little like nuggets of information by watching it. And I hope that through that like slideshow, being able to see the different pictures, hearing those travel stories, that had that impact. I know that if I could do it again, there were just different ways I would want to deliver that information and hopefully be able to convey that to people. But it is what it is. It was recorded, and then that was the interview. So I don't think it was bad by any stretch of the means. But like watching it, I just wish I could have changed certain things. And I did practice for it, but it's what they always say. Like you should really, practicing in front of a mirror. I don't know that that is necessarily as effective as us taking out like the phones that we have in our pockets and filming ourselves, because I have to say, watching it on screen, seeing it, I was like, oh, why did I do that? Like, those little things that we pick up on from ourselves, it was like that for me. So I know that it's one thing to think about what you do, but then when you see it, it's like, oh, I do this. Like I notice this about myself. So practice in front of a phone and recording it and then watching it back is probably the best form of practice, is what I've learned. And in this case, I didn't record myself beforehand, to be honest, but it definitely would have helped because me watching the final product on screen, I noticed things, and I know for a fact that the second time around I would do things differently, do things better. And that's why they say interviewing is a skill, because you do get better with practice. And I've had other interviews, but not one like this where it's filmed and you're a little bit more, I guess, like vulnerable when it's something that's being recorded, and it's not only for you, but it's really for other people actually. It's for the people watching it, it's for your audience, and it's just different, and it's not really something that I've done before. I don't know if I so and the other thing is, like, it's also a lot, it's very fast paced. um we're in the age of like TikTok now, where things are just like one thing after another after another after another. People are very fast paced. They don't have attention spans like they used to, I think. It's and so it's hard because for me on a blog post, you're talking about telling a story, and I'm used to writing like 2,000 to 3,000 words to tell people what it is that I want them to understand, what my story is. But then when you're on TV, and this isn't anything about the show specifically, I'm just saying that the format is just different. It's, here's something for you to see. Oh, here's something else for you to see. Okay, commercial break. Like, it's just very fast. So when you're in my position and then you're trying to like show pictures, it's really hard because it's like, well, how do I summarize this story? Maybe the best thing is to just quickly introduce it, and then say like, oh, well, go read the post if you want the full story, because you can't really get into it. There's just not the time that it would take to get into those stories to really explain to people. And I think that for me, that was like a little bit stressful or just difficult, I guess, because it's like, I see something in my head, I know the story. So I'm thinking, well, how can I get my audience to really understand, like, why was this important? What was the significance of it? And I even felt like this in particular with the pigeon. It's like, well, how much can I tell people before it either sounds weird or just boring? Because I know that I can't go in depth enough that they would understand, like, why was I doing this, like what was the point, or how did I like, there was just so many little details that it was hard to kind of get into. So I think that the bottom line is that you just kind of have to like figure out, well, how do you kind of give people that elevator pitch, that 60-second commercial where they've heard and seen enough that they're like, oh, this is interesting, I want to learn more, but not necessarily getting it right there in that moment. So that's like a skill that you really just need to do. And I think that the key to that is just practicing and learning how to really just show people like the most important part of it, or just kind of luring them in. It's like storytelling, like it's the beginning of the book where you just have to hook them, and then the rest comes later. And for me, I didn't really know if I don't know if I understood that conceptually. I think I was just trying to like actually tell the story, and so it was like, well, this is so fast, like I need to not take so long to tell these stories, but how do I still keep it meaningful? That was the key. Okay. Yeah, so that was kind of my own like little self-reflection on it. um I don't really know. I think that overall, like, I don't think it was a bad interview. I think it was a good interview. I just know that for myself, I have very high standards for myself, and it's like, oh, I wish I could have just nailed it the first time. And of course, it's probably unreasonable to think that. Even with my blog, like, I have certain expectations for it that I take very seriously. But I also am aware of the fact that I've been blogging for almost a decade now. I mean, I did start it when in 2013, so you're talking about quite a long time. If you looked at a blog post from 2021, and then you looked at a blog post that, and I still have them up, from 2013, I was in high school. So there is a very big difference there, and there should be, because you're talking about a very long time of working on certain skills and being able to do things. And I mean, now it's evolved in such a way that I didn't know it would. I mean, my blog is is like, for me, it's like a very important thing, and like so many different things have come from it, and I never dreamed or even imagined that any of that would happen back in high school when I started this, just talking about like things I was doing. Um, but that's the transformation of just like how stuff works. And for me, this was the first interview of this kind where I got to talk about these experiences. And so maybe it's a little unrealistic to have thought that everything would be like perfect, like I would want it to be. But that's okay, and that's also why I wanted to make this video. I think that it's good because, like I said, my blog's not just about like, oh, look at me, here it is. It's to remind people that, I'm a human too, and we all make mistakes, that we're all learning and going through these things together. And that's what it is. So I was nervous and I made certain little mistakes, and I don't think any of them were like horrible, but I know that I definitely could have done better. Um, and that's the bottom line. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what I thought of it, and next time will be a lot better because I'm aware of these things now. And hopefully you still enjoy it. I think that there's cool pictures and stories in there and different tips and pieces of advice. So definitely check out that interview. And that's it for now. Enjoy the rest of your day.